It says it's live.
And we're live, and we have also some orange juice for this live meeting. So hello everyone. Thank you for joining us. Lots of love to everyone who is here live, and also many hugs to who is watching the replay. So we're going to talk about, I think we had the initial idea of like shadow work last week, but you kind of talked about all the types of fear programming, like how do we receive that, like how that reprograms our whole minds and how we perceive reality, and basically like how can we transmute that into like reprogram ourselves in a way that we actually want to function, so we're not just like the victim of circumstances mindset, basically, in general. And yeah, like also I wanted to mention our Patreon community. If anyone is interested, we have different types of group activities there. I think it was on Friday. Yeah, like it was on Wednesday. We had our channeling session where I bring through my guides and you can ask them questions live. Basically, they are the group of beings that assist me on my journey here. And also they are the ones who are communicating the channeled messages that I share. So if you're interested in different types of group gatherings where we focus on our soul's evolution, working through our stuff, and basically how can we make our whole ascension process more smoother, then check us out. The link is in the description. So we also have higher vibrations with us. Thank you for joining us and bringing some orange juice for the meeting. How are you doing?
Great. I came late, so I had to run and leave the screen to get my orange juice. That's why we're late. I apologize for the delay.
That's perfectly fine. Like, do you want to share something at the beginning, or we should like get into it immediately?
There's a couple of things. First of all, you mentioned your Patreon, and like there's a lot of really compelling elements to it, but I just wanted to point out the thing that I find the most amazing, bringing all this channel stuff through is this beautiful service that tends to be rather expensive, and we get to do it in a group setting, and it's beautiful. But there's also that added element that we don't get, and that's interacting with each other people on this awakening journey. We have spent who knows how many lifetimes in this place of like isolation and just really separate, in our experience. We've, whatever the point in the planet's collective awakening experience, there's always been this quietness that we've been separate and like weird or unique or even called crazy. And these groups, you get to compare, you get to hang out with other people that are just like you and compare notes. Like that's the validation and the connection and the disappearing element of that imaginary separation that we have. Like that's an illusion, but it doesn't feel like it. And when we get to connect in that way, it's so helpful. And hi, Carmen, he's first.
Hello.
But then there, and we also have other meetings that we do through my channel that are small little meetings that are like the same concept, except it's just us chatting. So if you ever want to join any of those meetings, we have them every Sunday and Tuesdays at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. But this week we're having a special Friday the 13th one.
Oh yeah,
an
tomorrow.
Hour later.
Yeah. Okay.
That'll be at 1 o'clock.
And I will be putting the higher vibrations channel link in the pinned comment as too, so you can find it there. And yeah, like I wanted to say, like yesterday, like we have evolved in the past 2 months that like 6 of us can be together at once. So that's awesome. And like yesterday, it was like crazy how everyone is like bringing their puzzle piece to the whole picture. And during the channeling session, like everyone's story and questions kind of like were like woven together to form a picture that was really weird and amazing. I was not expecting that. Like
it was reminiscent of the Dolores Cannon interviews. She talked about how like she would get pieces from many different places though, and this was like all in one
people
space,
from different continents and like from different countries that don't even know each other.
And so it was cool to see it happening, unfolding in the moment. And I actually don't always go back and watch the replay of those Patreon meetings, but I think I will watch that one just because of that. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty weird and awesome too.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to shadow work and like how can we work through the fear programming? Do you want to start, or maybe you want me?
Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
You know, there's a lot of elements to the.
I've just noticed that I managed to find this puppy dog mug.
Cheers.
I've just seen it on the camera. Oh my god! Like, what did I just pick for this evening?
You're breaking your whole reputation of the black clothes boy.
Yeah.
That's okay. You can be dark and mysterious with a puppy dog cup.
Yeah. That even adds to the mystery itself.
It does.
Yeah.
Good point. So like, you know, it's kind of a thing you hear a lot, you know, the oldest profession. Everybody knows what the oldest profession is, but the oldest business is that of propagating fear. You know, like there's a lot of different reasons that the entities, groups, whatever you want to call it, have been making this a business for as long as they have, you know, and there's a lot of different ones that have a lot of argument to it. But one of the ones that we can really all agree on, I feel like, is that fear is the best way to control somebody. When you instill fear with them, and then throw like a possible option into like the yelling fire in a theater joke, you know, everyone's gonna like freak out and mob mentality ensues. And, you know, and so very similar to the past couple of years of our experience, you know, a lot of what we have been seeing is just this example. And I think that it's not simply that they've picked up but it's also that we're able to perceive it more easily. It's in front of our face, you know, and as a result of a lot of that fear stuff that was implemented in society over the past couple of years, a lot of people have taken in chemicals and toxins into their body that they knew were not safe. There have been people who have, their lives have been changed dramatically as a result, and so on and so forth. You know, but there's also an understanding of what fear can do for a population. There's an understanding that a lot of these lower dimensional frequency beings do utilize fear as a type of resource, as a type of food, you know, and that's the other extreme of people not so easy to agree on it all the time, but that is a business that's very, it's not very hard to jump down that rabbit hole anymore. The information is becoming more and more readily available. But the big thing, why is there fear? Why are we really trying to push fear? And if you really consider what source is, what God is God is nothing but the purest, most perfect, most unfaltering love ever known. Like, I mean, the level of love, I cannot be even near to that energy without weeping in joy, like snot bubbles and you know, your body's like, you know, shivering and shaking because it's such a beautiful, amazing experience. The opposite of love is fear, you know, and so the best way to draw a person away from this ascension like experience and closer toward source, toward God, then is to pull them toward fear. There's that's the two extremes. And close to fear, you have shame and self-body image kind of stuff, guilt, you know, that kind of stuff. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to say guilt. That's also very near, especially with like religion and shame. Yeah, like that's also very heavily the part of the programming.
Exactly. You know, and it's such a prevalent thing in society that it's almost a daunting task to sit down and to list every element where fear comes from. We would be here for hours. But to, you know, as a general scope, before I go on too long of a tangent, you know, like in media is the easiest place to look and find fear. Like, you know, if you are interested in dipping down into that experience for a moment, which isn't the most desirable, all you gotta do is turn on the news, man. You know, like, what are they telling you? They're telling you fear, 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 fear. Commercials. You got to buy this or you're not going to be okay. like keeping people poor and limiting resources that are widely available to the population of the planet. They're gonna, if you don't do this, you're gonna starve. Like you get so much money, this made up thing, in order to make it so your kids don't, go cold or hungry, and then you're motivated to give up over a third of your life every day, if you include like transportation to and from work, to be someplace else, to get this minimal need in order to make sure everybody's safe and okay. And that has to do with fear also. Without a job, you are in this world, we're leaving that paradigm, but the paradigm we have been in, if you don't have a job, you're not going to survive, and like a 9-to-5 kind of like employment at a business or a corporation or industry kind of a job, and that's all propagandized fear as well, like, so to look through everything that you interact with in a single day and to see the fear there is the first real beginning part of our awakening that I've seemed to notice through a lot of us, through a lot of the experiences of these conversations we've had with other people. Anyway, so the space of fear, the opposite is love, and God is love. So the solution seems like it sounds simpler than it actually is, which is going to be the rest of this conversation probably, or a lot of it. How do you pull from that fear when it's so entrenched in our psyche? It starts out when we're babies. The boogeyman's going to get you if you don't eat your carrots, kind of crap.
Yeah.
That stuff happens in infancy. Like the cartoons that we're feeding our children, the things that we have interacted with in our lives, like all these things about kids having cancer and, send money overseas because they're starving and because we're not giving them the food, and like all that stuff is all the beginning of our experience on this planet. And then it just keeps going as we start school and so on.
Yeah, like the programming goes even further when you go into school and they like box you in even more. Like if you think a bit differently of the world and how things function, then you're going to get a bad grade.
Yeah. And it's all fear motivated. Your grade is a fear motivated element also.
Yeah, like if you don't pass the exam, like you don't pass the exams, you won't be able to graduate, and you won't be able to have a diploma, you won't get a good job, then yeah.
Right.
So you have to play by the book, basically, on all those parts.
And you're taught that at the very beginning. Like some of the preschool stuff that I noticed, because I'm one of those parents that filters through what my child ingests, because we consume food and that are full of toxins in the world too. Like we have to decide if we want that toxin in our body or not, and we make and if we can, make those decisions. But we also consume everything else. We're consuming, what are you putting in your mind? What are you reading? What are you listening to? What are you watching? And as I did that with my daughter, I couldn't believe how much of that was like, you will be ostracized if you don't, like that. This is like you're meant for 3-year-old child. If you don't act like this and like this and like this, you won't be accepted in the cool kid club. And that cool kid club grows up to be rich and they have all the cars and stuff. And this group end up on the streets with a empty cup asking for change. Like they show that in cartoons for 3-year-olds, like that's where it starts. And it just keeps going.
Yeah, like, and also we could like talk about so yeah, like a lot of stuff have been happening in our world, especially in the shadows or behind the scenes. And now like everything is coming up. And I think like many people are like waking up to the reality that, hey, the show or this reality that I've been sold, like that's not real, or that doesn't work anymore. And it doesn't. And that's why it's like falling apart and crumbling under its own weight. But at least like more people are able to see it for what it is, and many people are making a conscious decision to, okay, like this isn't working, so what else is there, basically, like how can we work through this? And I bet like everyone who is here is in that category, who is searching away, like, okay, like what can we do to like overcome all that programming and search for something else, basically, because like there are always alternatives. And I find it very funny, like the Matrix analogy with the movie. Like in the movie, you have this, everyone is in this dream world where everything is like normal and okay. And in reality, the world is like barren and everything is destroyed. And on our case, it's like kind of the opposite. Like society is trying to sell you this end of the world, zombie apocalypse, destruction level type stuff. And in reality, we live in a wonderful universe.
Yeah.
They don't want you to know that.
The bomb shelter business right now is amazing. Like the fall away shelter and like the people, like the 80 days supply of food people, like they're doing so good on their business right now because the fear is just so entrenched in a lot of the collective. I agree with you that most people here are able to see those bigger things, the more glaring fears, but they're still the ones that I struggle with. Like the most are the ones that when I have an ascension symptom, a body reaction to this ascension experience, then my first initial response almost always is that I have some kind of problem that I need to go seek medical attention for. Like I go there with fear. I'm like, something's wrong, and like, but it's just, it's a symptom. And that's another point of that propagating fear into something beautiful and pulling you away from that experience. It doesn't make you stop having the ascension. It simply causes a tug of war in your experience, yeah, that's the one I struggle with the most because I still flinch there. I go, that's my first, like, for a moment thought is, oh no, like, especially with this like itchy stuff that's going on, the skin stuff that's happening for a lot of people. Like that's weird, and like, but it's having these conversations with other people is the solution to that for me, is that I get to, find out weekly that other people are going through the same experiences that I am. And so there doesn't have to be fear there, but the fact that there is, and then, if you go to the doctor, most often they'll tell you there's nothing wrong with you, but then they'll still give you medication.
Yeah. Just to be sure.
Just take this, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, like that's very crazy. But like that's like a topic in of itself too.
Yeah.
The whole medication stuff. Yeah, like so we were like addressing fear stuff and like how like we want to like work through it and past it. And basically like the best remedy for it is like information, to learn new stuff and like have an open mind and see like what else is out there. And of course you're going to encounter a lot of crap information and disinformation and misinformation is also there. But that's kind of where your discernment needs to come in. And yeah, like, but that's also like a work in progress. So you're going to develop those skills also with time. So be patient with yourself on that front.
Right.
But yeah, like should we go into maybe like some nighttime weird scary stuff too, because that can also come in when you're like waking up to a new reality, like the agents of the Matrix are like coming in on the astral plane to scare you basically, and to like put you back into your place where you belong, basically. Right.
If you don't mind me touching on discernment first, really quickly, that's a good topic to move into. The spiritual discernment that we have, that's an innate tool and awesome power of ours, has gone through a period of an attempt to also disarm that by, teaching us that we aren't powerful beings, that by the way you are, and that instead we would need somebody in the middle. Like you need an intermediary. So you need like the boss or the priest or the rabbi or the person, somebody to tell you the truth, because you can't do it yourself, and like, and that's disarming your empowered ability that you came here with. We are the best lie detectors on the planet. Like, if something's full of it or not, and to teach you to question yourself so often that you don't know what's true and what's not is also done with fear. And, to know that is a tool that you have, and that it's readily available to you. It's just that, just like Guardian says, it takes a short time because we have to train ourselves, or untrain, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, unbrainwash the belief that you aren't that powerful, because you are, and you are more than capable.
Yeah, but yeah, like be discerning, but also like be patient with yourself, because it takes a lot of time and experimentation too. But like what I have found and also heard it from others, like everyone is like getting those impulses from your higher self, you know, that gut instinct about things. But then we like start to convince ourselves that, oh, it's not that bad and it's not that way. And then we like start to like disarm our own discernment and like convince ourselves of the contrary, because like that's what everyone else is saying, or that's more comforting for some reason.
Yes,
exactly. But yeah, like after a time you can work through it. Like after you like have those experiences, like, okay, like I really shot myself in the foot that day. Because like I was like deliberately like ignoring my instincts regarding a person or some kind of situation. But yeah, like that's also part of the learning curve. So
and you know, you can ask, you know, that's something else that's a tool. And we should definitely go into the other part of the topic, but I just, all you have to do is ask. You know, the rule of free will is prevalent here, and so prevalent here, and so there's a lot of interaction or in stepping in that can occur by the archangels, by the higher realms, by all of those who are here and want to assist us. They can't come unless you ask. But if you ask, they will be there. Like before you're even done asking, it's so cool. Like, you know, you're used to that delay in this human experience that we're in. Like first you communicate verbally, then there's a moment of that person processes, then their brain processes action, and then it happens. But for us, in this way, you start to ask and they already know what you're saying. So it's already done. They're here. You know, it's like, whoa, cool. But anyway.
Yeah,
so
like that's,
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So this kind of ties into what I wanted to speak about, having like these scary experiences during the night. Because like when you wake up and you like activate your light body and become more like vibrant, then you like stick out like a, I don't know, like a lighthouse among the crowd of like everyone's like in the same level, and you're like, and that's pretty like easy to pick up in the astral energetically, and beings are drawn to that. So that's like a natural side effect, that you're going to have more activity around your house, in your field, and like not all of it is bad or malevolent or anything. Just many beings are interested, like who's that, or like is this fuss all about? But yeah, like there are also those beings who are coming in to propagate more fear and to like scare you away from this awakening path, so you can like go back to that mundane way of sleeping through your entire life, basically. And yeah, like you can have those scary experiences during the night, but as you have said, that you can call upon your guardians, your archangels, to clear your space, to protect you during the night and also during your daytime, so you can have like a smoother experience, because you don't have to experience all that crap that they can give you. But even those stuff are mostly like illusions and like stuff that are like based upon your fears, and they just like amplify that, play on that. But truly it's just like a play of like smoke and mirrors, basically. When you like dissolve it and like banish it, basically, then you just realize, oh, it was just all the play that they were doing, or some kind of illusion they were casting. It's not real. But when you're in the middle of it, then it can feel very much real too.
Yeah, exactly.
They're very good at it. So they've been studying our human psyche for thousands of years, and they know how to push our buttons, basically. Yeah, like if you're in a super scary situation, you can use we usually use the Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh Adonai Sabaoth mantra. You can also post that in the description or in a comment if anyone remembers it. That's like super, because like when you're in the middle of a situation, especially if you're like woken up in the middle of the night, then your mind is like very foggy and you're not as clear. So I know, like focusing on some kind of manifestation or practice is very difficult, but you can like easily repeat this mantra, which ties you directly to the higher realms and like brings in all the higher realm guides, angels, and everyone is like coming in and like clearing the stuff out. So it works like a charm. And the more you repeat it in your mind, then it can like come in automatically when something happens. Like for me, it's almost like a fail-safe system, and it comes up even during my astral experiences. Like I don't even think about it, but something happens, and for some reason I just start repeating it in my mind, and the whole thing is just goes away, and I wake up from that experience because like I brought in all my light team or the archangels, and they just like dissolve the whole experience and like put back everything into its place, and everything is in its proper order, basically.
Right. It's the frequency. It's the frequency presented with the voice, and it is true that it amplifies with members present. So present meaning, excuse me, like we do meditations through the portal of the internet. You know, like Guardians in Romania. I'm in on the west coast of America. There's somebody over here that's in Australia. We're doing, and all at the same time gathering that energy and that intent, though we're on separate places. If the intention of the space is shared, it does alter it, you know, and I just bring that up only to say that is why often when we invite another person into our room at night, it just goes away, because that intention of bringing betterness, it just seems like, and that's when you can convince yourself that it really didn't happen or whatever, you know. But like the grays, the ones that are that have been like the interfering ones, you know, because there's a couple different versions of them, are really known for their psychic attacks, you know, and most of the experiences that have been reported, and no surprise, media loves those stories. They're like, this person had an anal probe, let's talk about it, you know. Like,
yeah, and they like make horror movies about it too.
Yeah.
Like I think like 95% of all like ET movies are like horror movies.
Yeah, exactly. And they're coming to harvest you, you know, and all this like War of the Worlds, and even Mars attacks. It's hilarious, but it's still like all they're coming to dominate, man. You know, and like, and that's not true, you know, and in fact, we have had other dimensional experiences supporting this planet and us on this planet for much longer than I have the ability to conceive a conceivable time that my brain can process. They've been here forever, you know, and helping us. And those experiences that we have reported so often most often aren't actual physical interaction. Like that's all psychic attack related. The experience that you're having is in your mind when you're here right now anyway too. It's just they're doing the same thing. They're producing an image, and there's no it's not an accident that usually there's an interfering of your most private parts of your body, because that's the most fear-based thing to have happen to you, you know, like, and that's just one example though. And yes, I agree. It's trying to disarm these people, these energies that are here to assist us.
Yeah, and they can come in, like when you awaken, you can have both experiences. Also, like your angelic or higher dimensional guides can come in and have experiences with them. And like maybe the night after that, then the negative ones come in to scare you. And after a time, you kind of like confuse both.
Yeah.
And you will also find that positive experiences scary because they have like conditioned, like they have traumatized you, that like any otherworldly experience is bad or fearful because you had a few bad experiences with them. Yeah. And that kind of also can create a blockage as well, because you can't really decipher or like differentiate one from the other after a while, like after they have traumatized. I think like that happens to most of us, like especially when we are like very little, we have like or like in the teens we have some scary experiences, and like that kind of, even if you're not conscious of it, but like your whole brain and how we function, you just like, it programs you like, okay, like everything of that nature is bad and I'm afraid of it. Even if it's something good can come through it, but that's how you instinctively like interpret it, sadly. And it's kind of difficult to work through it. I don't really remember consciously how I did it, but I think I did it with some kind of transmutations and like doing some healing stuff on me. And I think like it's kind of just faded away with time.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of how it worked out in the end.
Yeah, for instance, in Harry Potter, the example of the fear of that movie is Voldemort, right? And no one ever said, no, the people who were the most afraid of him refused to say his name because, fear of a thing, blah, blah. That example and how that made the fear of it grow bigger and bigger and empowered the thing that actually, it's the same that we've been doing all this time. Most of us have been taught not to talk, not to talk about these types of things. Like it's speckled throughout our history of like people being interfered with who spoke up. Like these days, or at least, a few decades ago, people were locked into hospitals and stuff, and I know that still happens. I just, I had that experience when I was in my teens, and like, you don't talk about this stuff or you get cut off from the world, and everything gets taken away. And that is another element of that. Don't talk, because surprise, talking about it is the solution. Communicating with one another, bringing it out, shining the light on it, doing the shadow work of it. What shadow work really is turning on a bright spotlight in a room that hasn't had light for a while and letting you see the dust in the corners, letting you see that stack of books has fallen over, noticing that a village of mice have moved in, whatever it is, like you can't see that in the shadows. You can't see it. And at first, when the light is turned on, it's startling, it's shocking, it's almost demoralizing in some ways to see how much has piled up. It almost feels like energetically we have been hoarders walking around this planet with far more things collected around our experience that we haven't been able to really truly have a real experience because we're being interfered with so often. And so what shadow work really is looking at these things, shining light on them and saying, you exist. Thank you for what you have done for me. You can see that every one of these things, even when you first recognize their existence, it's pretty easy to at least see a little bit of how it's assisted you thus far. Most often, however, once we've moved through that element, it's easier to see afterward, like seeing that head on versus through the rear view mirror. It's so much easier seeing the rear view mirror, and that those were helpful to us and that they did assist us in some way. However, at this time, we no longer need their service. Thank you for your service. Goodbye. And then release it. Like this stuff where this practice of getting all of our flaws, inadequacies, and defects and putting it in a pile and smearing it around and then making a title out of it and sticking it back to yourself makes no sense to me. Like the whole point of acknowledging something is to let it then be, and it doesn't mean that now I'm autistic, now I'm dyslexic, now I've Tourette's, now you have ADHD or whatever. Those are just really well accepted as things that are labels. But all of these things, these labels, don't do us any service. In fact, they're karmic anchors. They're keeping us just beyond the point we truly can reach. As evolutionarily speaking, spiritual awakening, speaking, all the different in this this ascension, there's so many different elements because as we go up, we expand. And so there are like almost like link-a-logs that are connecting to us as we go of our full true self, if that makes any sense. And so, you know, shining the light on it and saying, thank you for what you did for me. Like, I definitely see how being taught that if I wasn't a good consumer, if I didn't buy the cool thing, then I would be broken and wrong and outcast. I see how believing that for that time in my life was beneficial, because now I can look back and see how wrong it was, because I already experienced it. You know what I mean? Like, as we pull away from these elements of control and pulling us into a lower dimensional experience, the easier it becomes, though, you know, and at first it does feel like a daunting task. And so, you know, if you can't get on these Zoom calls, if you can't connect to each other, you know, to other people like you, like us, then join these live meetings, comment in the comments, talk to each other, you know,
the
like
chat section too, right?
Yeah. Participate, you know, and like, excuse me, that's how we started Guardians live meet. These lives that he did, he used to do it solo and like, you know, whistling in the dark sometimes almost, because we would just be talking to each other, you know, like, and you know, and we connected enough that we started emailing, and before we knew, we started doing Zoom meetings. My point is just doing that. I look forward to Monday. I made my whole week revolved around getting to connect with other people, because then I got to see not only was my experience not unique, but there was a solution to it. And no, it's not the end of anything. It's the beginning. It's the beginning of something so much more complete and beautiful.
Yeah, like we're working through it gradually, not all at once. Yes. And yeah, like we also have this notion that we're waiting for something big to happen that will change everything, but it's kind of happening gradually, and that's also very true for our lives too. So yeah. Yes. And also, like Kate has asked or stated something which is very much in tune with this. Do you think that sometimes demons or astral entities are actually there to show us the shadow aspect within ourselves and then go away once we have faced that inner issue? And I think that's pretty much to the point too. Yeah. Like, I think in some mystical teachings in the East, they kind of have like, during your evolution, like when you're about to reach a new plateau, like the gate to that new level is guarded by a demon, basically, but you kind of have to transform, or you have to overcome in order to access the new level in your evolution. And yeah, like that can manifest through many different ways. Like it can be maybe an entity on the astral, or maybe a person in your life, or a life condition that you have. That can be like anything, basically. And yeah, like working through it is the only way to overcome it. Yeah, like, and I also wanted to share this. I think I wanted to talk about this last week when we were talking about fears, but it's kind of on the point here too. Like, it's a quote from the book that I have published last year, The Teachings of Thoth, the Atlantean, regarding fear and like how to overcome it. I think we have talked about the spell to freedom of mind 2 weeks ago, when you were asking the 7 archangels to come in and like banish the darkness, like clear your space, fill you up with light, and that good stuff. We can, you can, maybe I will post that later on as a community post again, but I wanted to share a continuation of that, which is regarding fear, basically, and like what it is and how you can overcome it. And I lost like.
Well, you look that up, because I can talk if you'd like.
Okay, I found it. Okay, so it's a quotation from the book. Okay, so know ye, O man, that fear is of the night. But what is the night but lack of information, lack of sight? Aye, fearful are ye of the great unknown. So in order to conquer it, shine upon it thy own light, just as what we are talking about recently. For nothing can hide in the light, nothing can ever stay hidden from thy sight. Bring thy fears forth from the unknown to the known. See them, understand them, then banish them. Take them and cast them into the great fire of light. Cast them into the fire of the One, and say the following words in thy mind. O Great One, I give thee the lessons that I have learned. That which once came from the great fire, now transformed, it shall return. Thus shall ye conquer the phantom of fear, the poison of the brain.
Yeah, beautiful. And that's available on Kindle and
yeah, like it's on my site. You can go in the description box and you can find it. It will take you to my site and you can download it as a free PDF. It's also translated in Persian now.
Nice.
That's like super weird and crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's the first language that it was translated, and it was Persian. But you can, if you have a Kindle, then you can download it from Amazon. Or if you're, I know, like you prefer to read stuff on your phone or Android, then you can download it for free from Google Books. Like all the links are in the description if you want it. And also on Amazon, it's just 99 cents. So you can't make it cheaper than that.
Yeah, that's messed up. They won't let you give anything out for free there. But I guess I understand. And that is a channeling from Thoth. It's Thoth. I don't ever know how to pronounce that, to be honest with you. I always heard Thoth before, and now I'm hearing Thoth all the time. So I don't know which one's the right way to say it. But it's a channeling. Hmm?
It's Tehuti or Jehuti, the original name. Yeah.
Right. And I just really quickly wanted to add, visualizing the electric blue color, the sky blue color is the easiest way to access Archangel Michael specifically at a moment of distress. A point that Guardian makes often is that we have our initial react when we're in that place of fear, in the middle of the night specifically, when we're in that like in between world where we're waking up but we're asleep at the same time. It's hard to remember a lot of these things, the muscle memory of what do I do now, because you're still in that experience, you're deep into it, and one of the easiest solution I've found is to, because the color, the electric blue, the sky blue color is the Archangel Michael color. And I know that I see that color and that's Archangel Michael. So I know that if I've let myself flash that color, then I can kind of bring myself back into the moment enough that I'm calling him in, you know what I mean? And like, there's a lot of different tricks that we can do. The Kadosh Adonai symbiote, you can, if you do that and often enough, I actually posted both how you pronounce or how you spell it, and then also a link. That link, it repeats it over and over again. I think that's the one I listened to. I was kind of hurrying, but if you listen to it often enough, it becomes like a mantra that you just have in the back of your mind. It's easy.
Yeah, it's like muscle memory.
Right.
And when you need it, it just comes up. It just starts again and does its job, basically. It's very awesome.
Right. And really quickly before, I would love to point out that I agree that that's very I'm impressed that Kate has that perception. That's true. And like that all of this stuff that we're talking about, like we still have this 3D experience we're trying to like put this higher experience into to explain. And like this other experience, we see things as dark and light, bad and good, evil, and whatever. And like there's this back and forth where all of these things are of God. Like all of these things are an assistance of one another, and it's not as a predator versus prey as it seems. We are evolving each other and assisting each other. Soul contracts, we have so many plans before we came here to do these things. The people who cut me off in traffic have a plan. That happened right then at that moment for a reason. I bring that analogy up the most because I got cut off one time and I spun off the road a little bit, and then this big semi jackknifed, like I would have been over there. That person didn't cut me off, and I was swearing. I was mad at that person for a minute, but that saved my life. And those types of experiences can be less profound in the ability to notice it, that they are assisting us, you know, and guiding us, because we are all the banks of a river, and we don't tell the river where to go. It's just a suggestion. You know, sometimes the river just wants to go over there, but like it's gonna flow, and so we get these back and forth pushing to help guide us and let us be in the right position, that we can make that choice that we had planned to make before we came here, you know. And it is all of the same. It is all of source, the dark and the light.
Yeah, like we can maybe sometimes go into that too, like how that whole situation came up,
Yeah.
like how did we end up here and stuff like that.
It's
But
very
yeah, like,
extensive.
yeah, that's, and probably we can only like scratch the surface of it, because it like goes back so deep and so old. Like I think like humanity can't really perceive that from our point of view. But basically all the dark stuff are there to perfect the light, or to make it more complete and more complex, like working off each other. Because you have, if you only have light, then everything is white. You don't have colors either.
Exactly. And that's what I was shown too, is that shadow is present for light to see itself. Without a shadow, you can't see that it looks like a great piece of perfectly sheen paper, but then shadow is cast, you know, on it, and you can see all the different texture and character, and see what it truly is. And you couldn't perceive that before with so much light.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
It goes into very different nuances as well. And yeah, like we could also share like some practical stuff on like how to overcome fears when they come up, for example. Like at any given moment or period in your life, you're working on something. We have this rhythmic flow of our evolution. And like, I know, like sometimes they come up, it can be very intense, like some kind of old wound or trauma comes back up, and it can subside for a few weeks or maybe days. It comes back again. And like when it comes back to your forefront, when something is challenging you in that direction, or it's guiding you in that direction, then your higher self is basically like nudging you at the direction, because like, okay, like now is a great time to work on that. So sit down if you can, and like you can do like a meditation or whatever works for you. And like, yeah, like ask your guides, your higher self, or whatever works for you. Like, okay, like I'm experiencing this again. Like, where is this coming from? Why is this here? And like, what can I learn from it? And like, please help me to work through this crap as quickly as I can, because I don't want to spend much energy on it anymore. And yeah, like when you ask for help, that they can guide you on the most like easiest path, basically, the path of least resistance. Like these stuff, like they don't have to be difficult or time consuming. We just kind of give them this label that, okay, like if something is very big or very old, then I will like need equal amount of time to process it, or I will never be able to do it. And when you put your energy into it and your attention, you can just work for it like this, like very quickly, or like the fraction of the time. Okay, like some stuff can go back very deeply, but if you put your intention and energy it, you can like work for it very quickly too. Especially now, like all the energies that are present with all the alignments that are happening in the coming weeks too. Like everything is like promoting this transmutation of like bringing stuff up, and like, okay, like now it's up, you see it for what it is, and you don't have to understand it completely and fully, all its nuances, because it's not important. You just kind of have to like get it, like, okay, like this is where it's coming from, this is why I'm kind of experiencing this, I kind of get it, it's okay, now let's transform it and like move on already from that. And that's kind of what we're at right now. And you can use the violet flame too. Like that's something very practical. There are like tons of meditations. Like if you're interested, I have also done a few, I think like 3 of them in the past.
That's what I was thinking. The soul contract is what I was thinking.
Oh yeah, like soul contract removals as well. Yeah, like you will be guided to certain tools or modalities whatever works for you the best in that moment, basically, because like each healing and each challenge is unique, because you're constantly evolving, reaching new plateaus, and each time you need something different to heal that specific thing. So be very much open and creative on like what comes through, because if you ask for assistance and guidance, you will receive it, and your guides will be assisting you the best way they can. And if you allow them to assist you, then the quicker you can flow with the whole thing and get it done quickly too. So it doesn't have to be difficult or painful.
Exactly. And, you know, Guardian always talks about fire, and it's very useful. The transmutation through the violet flame is a very useful tool that I use regularly. And whenever he mentions the fire, I always have to say the love balls, you know, like when you send love to something, it changes the frequency of it, and it cannot exist in that space.
Yeah,
you know, like
I still love it. You send love balls to things and I throw fire at them.
Yeah, I know. It's very the divine feminine, divine masculine thing that's going on. It's kind of
I just burn through stuff.
It's like, blow it up.
Yeah. Well, it's very effective.
It actually there's scientific data now, finally. But, you know, scientific, whatever. But when you say I love you, you change the frequency of everything that's in your space, you know, perceivable for science. That they agree that too, with that point too. You know, the most noted one is the water. You can, because it's so easy to detect the differences as you say I love you to it. And I have effectively said and almost shouted I love you at unpleasant energies, and they have like just they couldn't be in that space. It like imploded, pulverized. Yeah, you know, and there's just so much, because yes, fear does pull us away from the main point, which is the love. However, it is not nearly as powerful as love. Love is the most powerful thing in the universe, you know, and so using the love, yes, this example of this water
I'm
is
not
just
sure how much can you see it.
I can see the whole thing. We're both small on the side.
Okay. So you have like both examples, like lower vibrational stuff and then the higher vibrational things.
Yeah.
And like it's always interesting that water like spreads in 6 directions. There's like the flower of life, basically.
Right. Yeah. And it's it feels like it looks like, I mean, you can tell that, I mean, that's just all, and that's just water, which is most of what we have on this planet. You know, this is
also our bodies are mostly made of water.
Right.
So just think about like what effect it has on your physical body.
Yeah. You know, someone says something unkind, it changes. And then also if someone says something and that's not someone, our internal dialogue is a big thing too. Like we talk to ourselves all the time, you know, and like use those, and disempowering self. That's another point that we were brought into it in early life, you know. But there's the most effective tool is the love. However, the other element of it is simply seeing it. You know, like we have been taught to avoid, ignore, not acknowledge. You know, it's just the elephant in the living room, the elephant in the room analogy is used all the time. This big, giant, massive animal, and everybody just walks around and pretends it's not there. Like it takes up their entire house. And then when that elephant finally dies, it's been there for 20 years. What does an elephant do when it's sitting in one spot for 20 years, you know, and they still walk around it, you know, and like, it's the same concept for most of the things in our lives, because we were taught that. Don't look at it. Fear is meant for you to just, you know, cover up and run away, and like not, it's, once you see it, once you allow the light to shine on it, you're able to see that it's a puppy. It's nothing, you know, like it's not this
wasn't
big,
that bad.
Yeah, you know, and like the smoke and mirrors, you know, when the curtain is pulled to see who Oz truly is, all of that stuff is like symbolism and little breadcrumbs that are all throughout our culture. Yeah, we're taught fear through media, but we're also being guided. The little breadcrumbs are being given us, you know, like all you got to do is look at it. All you got to do is acknowledge without judgment and release it. That's all you got to do. All this stuff, you know, and like, yeah, that sounds easier than it is, especially when you haven't done that for the majority of your life, you know, and
yeah,
just
but you
like
can
anything, it
start
takes
with little
practice.
things. Yeah, like you can
Yes.
start with little things. It doesn't have to be like the main topic or the main challenge
Right.
of your life directly. I mean, you can try, but it probably will be very scary because like you have so much, I know, like karma and stuff around it. It will be super difficult. But like with everything, start small and you develop confidence as you go along, basically.
Exactly. And most of this fear has been brought through from one lifetime to another that we experience. This innate fear that we don't really know what, you know, for instance, the fact that everyone, that most often women, at least, I'm not going to say men because men don't want to talk about it, but like
About what?
but women tend to be afraid of mice, snakes, and spiders, you know, and like, and that's just how it's always been. And like, you know, even as a young little person, you know, this baby will be afraid of those things, you know, and like those are examples I'm using as, you know, we bring experience from our previous experiences, not to hurt us, but because it's left to transmute. It's baggage we haven't unpacked yet. You know, it's something that needs to have light shown on it and to be released, you know, and like a lot of this stuff sounds strange, but it's true. A lot of this stuff is actually our captive. We are imprisoning those experiences in this space. They want to go just as much as we want them to go. It's, you know, it's bizarre. And as the lighthouses that we are, these energies are also drawn to us because we have this bridge people element to us. We often are the ticket out of here, you know, and like, and it's not that you are required to always make a light tunnel so they can go, but that's an option too. That's worked for me throughout my life, creating a vortex, a tube, a space of light. And, you know, just it's, and they just know to go there. They're drawn to it. And when they go to that light, often the experiences who are present with you, they're just trapped. And they'll go there right away and say thank you.
Yeah, like it's many of us why we are here. And it's also like, as we have said, like in the beginning, when you awaken, like many different beings can be drawn to you because like you stick out from the crowd, you're this pillar of light. And some of them are just interested for whatever reason. But as you have said, like some of them come there because you can be the ticket for them out of here. Like you can send them out of here. But if you are not grounded, then you're unable, or if you're not in tune with yourself, it's also like this is kind of like a tricky subject. But if you're like a beginner, then you shouldn't really experiment with that, in my opinion. Like some nasty stuff can come through too, and maybe that can like overwhelm you. So be very discerning in those situations.
And know in your heart, like know that you can hear in my voice that it's true when I say that you are safe, you are loved, you are protected. Like all this stuff, it's all smoke and mirrors. It's all an illusion. You are safe. You know, there's nothing that they can do to you. It's just the experience present, you know, and one thing at a time, you know, like if you're a nightlight person, maybe every once in a while, turn your nightlight off and go on from that point, you know, but knowing that you are safe and that you're the most powerful person in the room in these experiences, you know, that's been the big ploy of this whole thing, is to teach us, the most powerful beings here, that we aren't. Like that's a pretty good trick to be able to convince a group that, you know, and the best way to control them. So knowing that is half the battle.
Yeah, then after that, you can just kind of have to figure out how this works for you, or how can you tap into your own power, basically? How can you tap into source creative energy, and what can you do with it in a practical sense in this lifetime? Because like we all carry this higher vibrational knowledge from other lifetimes and like higher incarnations on different planets and whatever. But yeah, like we know that, but like what do you do with that here in this lifetime, basically? Like how can you apply it here? And then it's some kind of practical sense that can actually help you with something, or you can help others with that knowledge. And I think for us, like that's kind of the challenge, to make all that otherworldly information like make sense and like make it work here in this very limited consciousness planet Earth.
Right. Yeah, and you know, we're in this space right now where we are in this special alignment. This, and the energies are strengthening for us. We're going to have five planets are going to line up, and at the crescendo of that on Sunday night / Monday morning, we're not only going to have a full moon, but it's going to be an eclipsed moon. Pardon me. And then all of those planets are going to retrograde, and the space that we are being presented right now is the most perfect and most empowering. The light codes that are coming in, presenting us with the most, you can do this stuff anytime, but the way that the energy is set up right now, it's the easiest at this little window to get started. So if you haven't gotten started yet, this is the best time to try it, you know. And like a solution that is a good, you know, first timer kind of answer to this is there's a lot of guided meditations on YouTube. Just Google whatever, search shadow work. Shadow work is an guided meditation. There's one by Aaron Apke that I remember doing years ago, and that was very useful for me. And it's a way to tap into that, you know, with intention, and just in the empowered way that we are, and able to do what's in front of you. And you know, because a lot of this stuff, it seems like it just comes upside and hits you upside the head without warning, you know. And to kind of do it with intention, that this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go look at this fear right now. And you don't know what the fear is exactly. It kind of presents itself through the meditation process. It gives you a starting point, you know, and through that, I got to see how effective it was, and how it wasn't actually as hard as I had made it out to be in my mind, you know. And that's a good starting point, you know. And there's a lot of other tools available that we haven't mentioned, but the most important ones definitely are connecting with source, connecting with the higher realms, the archangels, you know, and knowing that you're safe, that you are powerful, and setting love at that thing, or fire, you know.
Throw it some fire. Yeah, like, yeah, just as we said, like ask for guidance and assistance, and like whatever you need and is in most alignment with you will find you. Like I know, like YouTube will recommend you a guided meditation from so and so with that specific thing that you need at that time. Or
yeah,
maybe someone says something about something and that leads you in a direction and you will find something that will help you, basically. You can never know.
there are so many rabbit holes to jump down. And yeah, like, and it's so cool when that happens, because you'll get a video that pops up that you need at that moment, and it was recorded like 12 years ago. It's like, whoa. Or whatever, you know. And that's pretty cool to see. And that's just another validating moment for you too, you know. And we're all doing this. That's another thing. So you're not alone. We're all doing this together. And as we transmute this fear, and we're all it is just a lingering stuff that's left behind. So we can all, as a collective, move forward, you know, feeling those real quick moments of anxiety, fear. That's often more of an empathic experience. Those ones that just come and go real quick, you know, like, or that come and just kind of linger and stick to you for a second. But you know, it's a lot of people are feeling that right now, is why I mentioned that is a separate experience, that you're feeling the collective waking up, you know. So yeah. Education and knowing what we're going through helps.
Absolutely. And also, in closing, do you wish to share anything also regarding the Zoom meetings, maybe?
Oh yeah, there's a Zoom meeting tomorrow for Friday the 13th at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll have a short on my channel in the next hour or two, and it'll have a link for that. We also have them every Sunday and Tuesday at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Awesome.
They're free.
Cool. Yes, I will add, I think I would do it right now so I don't forget. I'm going to pin a comment with your YouTube channel, and you can go directly to those shorts and check out the meetings, basically.
Cool.
So awesome. Thank you for joining us, High Vibration, and thank you for everyone being here. And have an awesome Friday the 13th tomorrow, and a cool full moon next week.
Solar eclipse or lunar eclipse.
Lunar eclipse. Okay. Yeah, like, it's going to be very intense, so try to rest and keep calm.
Yes, and you're safe.
Yeah, everything is okay. Just call upon your guardian angels and you'll be fine.
I'm
Okay.
sending so much love.
Thank you for being here, and lots of love to all of you. Bye. Bye. Hi.